Welcome back to my ongoing series on commercial crime insurance. Today, I'm going to talk about forgery and alteration coverage and give you a little story about how this has actually hit my firm personally. In this series, I'm going to cover what crime insurance is, why it's needed by many types of businesses, how coverage gaps often occur, and how to avoid them, coming right up. Hi, I'm Gordon Coyle, and before I jump right into crime insurance, can I ask you to hit that like button? That'll help signal to YouTube that this is good content, and it'll help my channel grow. Thanks. Okay, commercial crime insurance, and specifically forgery and alteration. This is a coverage that's often misunderstood by clients and by insurance agents. So let's start with what does it cover. As a standalone policy, the commercial crime coverage form typically contains 8 to 10 coverage parts covering specific crime perils. There are different forms and endorsements used in different industries, but generally speaking, they all track very similarly to the standard crime policy. Crime insurance focuses on protecting your company's money, securities, and other negotiable financial instruments. Forgery and alteration, as its name implies, covers the forgery or altering of checks, drafts, notes, or other similar promises, orders, or directions to pay certain sums of money. Forgery is pretty simple. It's when someone forges your signature on a check, a draft, a note, or similar document causing you to suffer financial loss. An alteration is when someone takes a legitimate check, note, or draft and alters the amount. You've probably seen simple things like taking a $50 check and making it a $500 check by adding a zero. But more sophisticated schemes involve washing the ink entirely from the check and then rewriting it for an entirely different amount than the original. Now, some crime coverages, including forgery and alteration, can be found in most business owners or BOP policies. A BOP policy is geared for small to medium-sized businesses and combines property and liability plus many other fringe coverages, such as forgery and alteration, into one package policy. It's important to know that the limits of forgery and alteration will be different from one BOP policy to the next. In my experience, most BOP policies will provide forgery and alteration coverage in limits of $2,500 to $25,000, depending on the insurer and the applied endorsements. In some situations, this may be sufficient, but in some it won't be. And here's what I experienced recently with a forgery situation. Our company controller was noticing some strange activity on one of our checking accounts, and while actually looking online at that account, our banker called to indicate that something was up. Our bank's fraud department had flagged our account because several checks had been presented that looked suspicious. After some investigating, we found that a check paid to a vendor looked to have been replicated in a few different formats. The checks all looked a bit different, but the signature line and the memo line matched exactly to the check we had issued a week or two earlier to that vendor. What we suspect is that someone scanned that check and used it to pilfer money from our checking account. The amounts on the first 5 or 6 checks on that day one were relatively small, under $2,000, and all were not paid by our bank. The next day, another 4 or 5 checks came through, and these were a bit larger, and this progressed for several days with the forgers getting bolder and bolder, trying to steal larger and larger amounts, ultimately getting to checks of $25,000 or more. I think if you totaled all the checks presented and not paid, it would have amounted to about $200,000. Like I said, all the checks presented by our bank were denied and we didn't lose any money. But what if that fraud unit at our bank didn't catch these forgeries? Our banker said that the customer has 60 days to dispute a check and have it reversed with the proper documentation. After 60 days, it's too late. The customer is on the hook. That means that if you don't reconcile your business accounts regularly or watch your online banking, you could be at risk of suffering a loss, and this is where forgery and alteration coverage steps in. Now, this doesn't mean that if you have crime insurance, you can be lackadaisical about controls over money. You still need to be, but crime insurance provides a safe backstop when things go bad. What does forgery and alteration insurance cost? Well, that's a good question, and the answer is based on several factors, including the type of business you're in, the number of employees you have, the number of employees who have money handling responsibilities, your total revenues, your security controls and financial audit processes that you have in place for money handling, and of course, the limit of coverage you wish to purchase. To find out exactly what Forgery and alteration and crime insurance would cost, a short application is generally required. We then take that application and go out to the marketplace to find you the right underwriter who can provide us the broadest protection at the lowest cost. Have other questions regarding crime insurance or forgery and alteration? Give me a call or drop me an email. In fact, there's a link in the description box below to book a call directly on my calendar. I promise when we chat, no hardcore selling, just some conversation to answer your questions and to see if we'd be a good fit for you and your company. Keep an eye out for the next video on crime insurance, and thanks for watching. Hit that like button too. Thank you.